I just entered my first ever backyard ultra marathon. And actually, this is the first ever organized race that I've ever competed in. If you're not familiar with the backyard ultra, the format is like this. You run 4 miles every hour on the hour until you quit. So if you complete a lap in 30 minutes, then you get a 30-minute break. But if you complete a lap in 55 minutes, then you only get a 5-minute break. Because the distance of the race is determined by the last person running, there is only one winner and everyone else receives a DNF. So originally I entered this race in order to train for an even bigger challenge that I had planned later in the year. However, I ended up finding what I was looking for during this race, and that other challenge will be set aside until I need it again. So, what exactly was I looking for, and how did I find it? Well, over the past 2 years, my life has been going pretty great by all measures. I married my wife, I've been progressing all aspects of my fitness, including my practice of jiu-jitsu, and I've been working part-time growing a business with my wife, doing something we both love. And I even got the opportunity to travel all over the world these past couple of years. Lady and I got to travel to South America, spend time with her family in Colombia. We got to explore my home of Canada, and we even took a trip to Vietnam together. On top of that, I got to climb the highest peak of 22 different European countries with a great group of friends. Even with all of that, it felt like there was something deep in my subconscious that just wasn't quite right. It felt like, despite all the positive things in my life, there was something right in the back of my brain, maybe right in the center of my heart, that just felt uneasy. Now, I felt this feeling before, and I recognized that I was in need of a spiritual experience. So what I mean by that is an experience where everything is so intense, so chaotic, so confusing, and you're experiencing so many different emotions and feelings at the same time that your mind simply gives up and holds on to only the truly important things in your life. It's a complete recalibration of perspective, and it becomes so clear what your focus in life should be. It's kind of like the yin and yang symbol, where you dive over to the black chaotic side, and you dive so deep into that chaos that you eventually find the peace and order of that white little circle in the middle. So I've found that I do pretty well if I have one of these experiences every 6 to 12 months. And while I was looking back, it had been almost 2 years since I had my last reset in perspective. Personally, I found 3 different ways to induce this kind of divine experience in my life. One would be consuming entheogens or psychedelics. 2 would be extremely long and intense breathwork sessions. And the third way to do this that's worked for me is intense bouts of physical exertion. Now, there are other experiences that can give you the same result. However, I found that they're not quite repeatable. They're more like once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that happen either for better or for worse, and you can't recreate those whenever you want. So looking back, it was just about 2 years since I did my last experience like this, which was an intense physical journey on the Cape to Cape track for 5 days straight. And I was planning on going back to that track for something even more intense if I had not found what I was looking for during this race. So that'll have to wait for another day. So the race I entered was Birdy's Backyard Ultra, which is located at a lake 3 hours south of Perth in Western Australia. So Friday morning, I drove down and set up camp and prepared for the 10 a.m. start time.
Everyone sync their watches.
So the first 5 laps went fairly smoothly. I finished each lap in about 40 to 45 minutes, which gave me plenty of time to lay down for a few minutes, hydrate, and eat some food. Now, lap 6 is where I started to feel myself tightening up when I sat down between laps. The sun was also starting to go down, and this is when I felt myself getting extremely cold once I stopped moving. Lap number 8 is the last lap where I stopped at my personal aid station. I grabbed my headlamp and some warm clothes, and from there on out, I spent the rest of my lap stopping at the communal aid station and trying to stay moving so I didn't get too cold and I didn't tighten up between laps. For laps 9 to 12, I was only coming in with about 5 minutes to spare. I spent all that time just drinking as much Coke and as much electrolytes as I could just to keep rehydrated and refueled for the next lap. These laps are where I really started to feel it. And when I finally got to lap 12, that's where pain, the emotions, the exhaustion, and just the chaos of my inner thoughts really came to a boiling point.
That's what I need to do. Oh my goodness, there's a shooting star right in front of me. That was incredible. Oh my goodness.
And that's when I had my moment of clarity. Now, I won't get into exactly what I discovered, but basically what I realized is that everything I needed to be happy in life was right in front of me. I know, shocking, right? And the worst part is I already knew this, and I had already received this message many times before in past experiences. The problem is no one could have told me this, and I already know that I'm going to forget this message again in 6 to 12 months time. And even though I can tell my conscious mind this every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to sleep, I feel that to get my subconscious mind to really understand that, I need to go through something extremely difficult and come out the other side. So lap 12 is where I had my revelation, but that's not where the journey ended. I finished up that lap with 3 minutes to spare, and I slugged down as much coke as I could possibly handle, and went right back to the start line. I told myself that I didn't want to quit at the start line, that I wanted to go out, and even if I had to walk the final lap, I would do it, and I would let the time limit kind of kick me out. So lap 13 starts, and I'm walking out the gate. At this point, it's 1 in the morning, and the rest of these psychos are just pulling away from me as they all start to transition from a walk into a jog. And at this moment, I really felt at peace. I'd had my revelation, I had gone farther than I'd ever gone before, and I really felt like I had pushed myself to my limits. And I truly felt that inner happiness I was looking for.
Moving as well as I can at this point. I will finish this lap. I don't know if it'll be within the time limit, but...
Unfortunately, that amazing moment of peacefulness turned to fear pretty quickly. Pitch black, -1 degrees, and my eyes were starting to play tricks on me. I had a quick vision of me taking a wrong turn and ending up hypothermic in the middle of a sheep paddock with a long night ahead of me. So luckily at this point I heard one last set of footsteps coming up behind me. So completely out of fear, I decided to jog alongside this person for the rest of the lap so that I wouldn't get lost out in the middle of nowhere all by myself. And we ended up having a great conversation and running the entire lap together. We weren't paying much attention to time or pace, but with about 1 kilometer left, he looks down at his watch and he says, "We got about 6 minutes to make it back before the cutoff." So with our spirits being lifted a little bit, we decided to make the push for the finish, and we started sprinting as hard as we could. At least it felt like we were sprinting. We probably looked a lot more like wounded penguins running to dive off the edge of an iceberg. But in the end, we did make it to the start line with 15 minutes to spare.
Pushed through the entire way and managed to make a sprint finish and cross the line with like 7 seconds left, and then get to the corral, and it was an awesome experience.
At this point, I'd been running pretty depleted. For the last 5 hours, I'd been drinking nothing but Coke and electrolytes, pretty much no food at all. And also that final push really made me tighten up once I got to the start line. So at this point, even walking the final lap was pretty painful. I was getting pretty delirious, didn't have any kind of fuel with me, but luckily someone was out there looking out for me because I managed to find an entire Snickers bar in the middle of the trail. Someone had dropped it or maybe placed it there specifically for me, but that gave me the energy I needed to finish that lap. We walked most of that 14th lap, but we did have to jog for a little bit just to try and keep ourselves warm. And we ended up coming in after the time limit, so the lap doesn't officially count, but it still counts in my mind because I did travel that distance. After that lap, I had to ring the bell to officially recognize my DNF, and I was awarded the traditional branded wooden spoon. And I'd never been so happy to lose a race in my life. So I officially completed 13 laps for a total of 87 kilometers. But with my additional lap and a few slight detours, my total kilometers for the day were 97. On this journey, I took over 122,000 steps and burnt nearly 6,000 calories. This was by far the hardest physical challenge I've ever done, and I'm already excited for my next one. I already feel that there are so many things I can do to improve next time, and who knows how far I could have gone if I hadn't had my revelation on lap number 12. In the moment, I wanted nothing more than to stop running, but ever since I stopped, I seriously can't stop thinking about my next chance to push my limits like that again. So for now, I'll sit with my newly reacquired wisdom, but my list of adventures and challenges is already growing. With each successful challenge, my limits get pushed, and I get more and more possibilities for new challenges and new experiences. So if any of you think that 97 kilometers, 14 laps is insane, it's crazy, it felt insane and crazy to me. But I was lucky enough to meet the world record holder for this kind of event. He's actually from Perth, and he was one of the race directors at the race. And he has successfully completed 102 laps, which is nearly 5 days of running and close to 700 kilometers. So That is completely unfathomable. I'm currently recording this 4 days after the race, so just to think that someone would still be running right now is mind-blowing to me. But it's all relative. Everyone's got their goals, everyone's got their limits, and as long as you can push past yours, it doesn't matter how far you go. I would highly recommend someone sign up for an event like this, even if you're just going to go 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, whatever it is. It's a great way to beat your personal records and challenge yourself. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out a bunch of other challenges I've done, some weird, interesting adventures, check out the playlist on my channel, and make sure you guys tune in next time for another adventure.